Hello and welcome to your notes for our prediction unit. Obviously today we're going to be talking about prediction. What is it? How do you do it? What am I looking for when I ask you to write me a prediction paragraph? How do you get better than a C on these? So let's just kind of get started. Never mind. So a prediction is essentially an educated guess about what's going to happen later in a story, or potentially also what has already happened that we don't know, that we're trying to figure out based on what is currently happening in the story. So when you go to make a prediction, you want to look at any of these things that are listed: plot, tone, theme, characters, foreshadowing. You'll hear me use these terms quite often. Plot, obviously, is the storyline. Tone, as you will learn later, is the author's attitude. Characters, obviously, that's a given. Foreshadowing are the clues that the author uses to kind of show you what's going to happen later. Most authors will put in clues to help you kind of figure it out, but they also assume that you have a brain and will use it to kind of figure out what's going to happen next. Oftentimes you guys ask me, well, why am I ever going to use this in class? Why do I have to learn this? Well, the answer is simple. We use prediction all day, every day. You predict how your boyfriend or girlfriend is going to react when you give them that super awesome gift. You predict that your parents are going to kill you when they find out that you stuck out and went to a party. And you use your prior knowledge to kind of inform your perception of what's going to happen. Weather forecasters, they predict based on weather patterns what's going to happen. Now, granted, they're often wrong, but we're just going to let that one slide. Okay? They're not just, even though it seems like it, they're not just randomly guessing what's going to happen. They have some clues that try and help them figure it out. Okay? They combine those clues with their educated prior knowledge to make those predictions happen. So, in the educational setting, we do the same thing. We look and we listen for clues and combine that with what we already know in order to figure out what's going to happen. When we do this, we become better readers because we're engaging with the text. When we're better readers, we understand more and we enjoy it more. So a good prediction uses clues from the text to make a guess about what happens next. One way to do this is to ask yourself, what do I already know? Okay, what prior knowledge do you already have? Okay. For example, what do you predict you're going to see when you go to a pet store? Pets, obviously, right? Cats, bunnies, dogs, lizards, fish. Are you going to see a horse? Probably not. We can use our prior knowledge to figure these things out. Okay. Saturday morning television. When you turn on the TV, what are you going to see? Well, if you're anything like my husband, you go straight to what are they called? The cartoons. And watch those all Saturday morning. Yes, he's 37, but he acts like he's 13. Your friend asks you to go to a movie called Monsters of the Deep. Is that going to be about unicorns? Probably not. Okay, it's probably going to be about sea monsters, right? You could substitute, instead of prediction, which is what we're calling this unit, you could substitute educated guess. Okay, that's essentially what a prediction is. Why we do it? We do it because we want to find deeper meaning in our lives, in events and situations, things that are not quite on the surface. When you have conversations with people, there's what's being said, and then there's what's really being said if you follow that. So you need to use evidence from the text or situation, your own kind of background knowledge, your experiences from life, and a little bit of common sense. Okay? All of that helps us to make sense of the life that we're living. So, in order to make a prediction, in literary tasks, what you need to do is you need to determine what motivates a character. What does he or she value? That will tell you what it is they're going to do next. If they value Slurpees and they're walking by a 7-Eleven, we can predict that they're going to go in and buy a Slurpee. Okay, you can use character history to predict what's going to happen with that character in the future. For example, if earlier in the story, Sam went into 7-Eleven and bought a Slurpee, and now he's walking by 7-Eleven again, we can use his history to predict what he's going to do. However, you can't always rely on that, and here's where it gets a little bit tricky, because authors are not always going to lead you straight to the thing. Those stories would be boring, right? They'd be predictable, and authors don't want that. They want you to be engaged. So if the plot went exactly how you expected, it wouldn't be very interesting. So authors throw in some surprises. So be prepared to kind of really be paying attention to the little things, because oftentimes authors will throw something at you that when you go back and look, you're like, yeah, they gave me clues, but I didn't realize it at the time. Now, when you write your prediction paragraphs, you have to have evidence from the text. That means you need to use specific references to what happened in the text or what the text explicitly said to back up your prediction. You cannot say, I predict there are going to be hurricanes, if you don't have any evidence to back it up. Maybe they are in Florida. Maybe they see a dark funnel cloud. I don't know that much about hurricanes. But you have to have actual evidence to back it up. So you're not just saying, I think there's going to be unicorns. And anybody could make that sort of prediction, but it's not one that's probably going to be correct. And obviously for what we're doing in class, you want a correct prediction. So my rule of thumb that I always say is, if you cannot find any evidence from the text to support your prediction, maybe your prediction is wrong. Because if your prediction is correct, there will be evidence to support it in the text, and you must explain that evidence as well. So it's not enough just to put a quote in there and say, look, Miss Hartman, I have a quote. You have to actually explain that quote and how that shows. Explain the connection, right, between your evidence and your prediction. How does that piece of evidence connect to your prediction? This is a prediction chart that you could use if you kind of feel yourself needing to kind of map it out for yourself. You don't have to use this by any means, but you could. Okay, what's the situation? What has the character done in the past? Or what is it that they value? And that'll lead you to the prediction of what's going to happen. Obviously, as we always do, you have to tell me who and what you're talking about. So you need to identify title and author. In the Lottery by Shirley Jackson, blah, 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 right? You need to also provide a brief summary or background about the story. You kind of summarize it real quick so that your reader maybe hasn't read it. Then maybe they can be brought up to speed. And then you hit them with your prediction, with, of course, your evidence from the text that backs it up. Okay. So you need to have a topic sentence that has title and author. You need to make one and only one prediction about what will happen in the story. You need to prove that prediction with quotes and evidence from the text. Don't mind the train in the background. That's obnoxious. And you need to, if you want a higher grade than just a C, you need to talk about our literary terms. What foreshadowing is there? What mood is created? Or how does the mood show what's going to happen? Is there any symbolism that the author has used that helps you to make your prediction? Okay, if you do that just on a very basic level, then you're going to get a C. But if you start to analyze that a little bit more, how that mood leads to that result, then that's where you get the B or the A. Here's an example of a proficient prediction paragraph. This is what I'm looking for. In Night Trucks, and of course you put the title in quotation marks, in Night Trucks by Kent Myers, I predict that the father in the story has died. The story seems sad all the way through, and it becomes clear that the dad is no longer around when the writer switches to past tense when he mentions him, like, as dad had always done. He wouldn't use past tense if the dad was still alive. When the author writes, "In a year of such loss," the reader knows that the narrator has lost someone important to him, and it must be the father. Okay, so this has title and author, topic, sentence. It has one clear prediction, not 3 or 4 different predictions, like this will happen, or maybe this will happen. Choose one, right? It has evidence from the text, a quote from the text, and then it explains that quote, why that quote is proving the prediction, and then a little bit more analysis as well. Okay, so that would get you a 75% or a C. For mastery, you need to have all of that plus more evidence and quotes. Okay, you need to really prove it. You need to use the correct literary terms, like I said, mood, tone, symbol, motif, foreshadowing, and this is the difference between a B and an A, you must analyze the effect of the mood or the foreshadowing on the overall piece of writing. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that as well. This would be a continuation of the previous paragraph. Maybe a separate paragraph altogether, but it would be tied in with the paragraph that I just showed you. The mood of sadness throughout the story prepares the reader to expect the eventual outcome. Although it begins with childhood memories, everything is quiet and covered in mist and shadow. Quote, "Shadows of crooked branches slid over the walls, above my bed, over the ceiling, over my sleeping brothers, over the model cars and airplanes we had built. The shadows seemed to be spreading and covering what might otherwise seem innocent or happy, like toys and sleeping brothers." So you've got this dark shadow coming over these happy memories, foreshadowing that something dark is spreading across their own childhoods. Okay? Now you may also want to talk about irony. Now, irony is more complicated. We'll get into it more later, but for the purpose of this, irony is a discrepancy, a disconnect between what is said and what is meant, or what seems to be and what really is going to occur. So you've got 3 types. You've got verbal irony, which you guys are pros at, saying the opposite of what is meant. "Oh, you look great today," right? Sarcasm. Dramatic irony, when the reader is aware of something that the character is not. So you know something that the character doesn't know. It's kind of like when you know there's a murderer in the dark house, but the teenage girl goes up to the door anyway and walks into the house. You know she's about to die, but she doesn't know it. That's dramatic irony. Situational irony is when there's a contrast between what is expected and what actually does happen. Okay, so you expect a certain thing to happen, and then something completely different happens, and that's called situational irony. Think for a second, what type of irony did Jackson use in Charles? We're going to be talking about that in class. That's all I have for you right now. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. You can reach me by email. You can pop in and talk to me in class. My door is always open. All right, I'll see you in class. Have a good evening. Bye.